I'm surprised it let me go live outside, guys. It never normally lets me do YouTube live outside. So hi guys. Can flip the camera on YouTube, can't I? So I am stuck. So it was just to let people know, guys, that I'm stuck in Edinburgh. So I'm having a wee ciggy. That's not too bad. The place is locked for go. Is that better? Is that better that way? Yeah, 2 secs. So guys, I'm really surprised that it let me go live. I'll just try and sort this. Nah, I'm not doing too great, I know. Right, hold on. Am I here? Right, so it's locked that way. We're fine this way. Nah, we've got to go that way, guys. So, like I said, guys, I've got stuck in sunny Edinburgh. So I came to Edinburgh today. As you know, the Queen was leaving from here to go to... How have I got to fix this? Somehow. Right, let's see. I'll get the window up. Better. Right guys, so like I said, I was coming to Edinburgh today while the world's mourning for the royals and the Queen. I wanted to come and have a wee memorial service for the children. So oopsie. So not to show any disrespect to the royal family, not to show any disrespect to anybody who's mourning the royals this day, and she's on her way to Edinburgh airport, so I get stuck in Edinburgh. The journey home to Glasgow was 2.5 hours, so I've just pulled in to do this. So I went to St Giles Cathedral. You couldn't get anywhere near it. Well, you could, I've got some pictures and that. So I just wanted to come here today in memory of the children. So although yous are grieving for your monarch and you've lost your royal loved one, well, I'm grieving for all the children in Scotland that are buried in unmarked graves all over our country. So I came here today to have a wee memorial service for them. And while the Queen's in Scotland, I am going to leave, wait, I'll show you, for the children here. I've got 2. That one was with my wee daddy. And this one is going to be left in Edinburgh to set all the children free. So, as well as, like I said, I was here for the children. I was here in a wee memorial service for the children. I've lit a wee candle. So I would just like you to ask yourselves that, guy, right? The world is mourning the Queen and the royals. So, but what about the children that are buried in unmarked graves all over our country? While yous are mourning for a woman that yous didn't know personally, that yous never really got to meet or be in her personal space, then nobody's thinking about the children. Look, I'm just going to show you this. So there must be something moving. So I am stuck. So as I said, guys, I'm stuck here until the traffic moves to Edinburgh airport. So guys, so like I said, I just want to remind people about all the stuff that happened in our country during their rule, during this monarch's rule. Not just the monarch, but the Vatican as well, right? We are so quick to respect the Vatican City and we're so quick to respect the monarch, the royals. What have they done for your country, right? For the whole entire United Kingdom. Under their reign, there's been thousands, millions of children raped, trafficked and murdered in the United Kingdom. There's been children under the rule of the monarch being raped, trafficked and tortured and buried in unmarked graves all over our country. So if they really were good for our country and they really were good for our children and our people, then how come there's children in unmarked graves all over our country? And during the rule of these people, they were trafficked during the First World War, during the Second World War. During the rule of these people, they were exploited, trafficked, sold. Just Quarriers alone in Scotland, over 10,000 children were sold to Canada and Australia. So during the rule of the Vatican and the monarch, where they're supposed to keep us safe, where they're supposed to protect our land, our property, we don't have any land and property anymore. So what does that tell you? To me that tells you it's all been taken from you. Your land and your property was taken long ago, including your country. So, like I said guys, I'm having a memorial service here for the children today, buried in unmarked graves all over our country, in the hope that there's change in the near future, because we need in our country, we need people to stand up for our rights. We're living in a time where we're under tyranny and treason, right? Where governments are committing tyranny and treason, and so is the monarch, right, against the people of our country. So when treason and tyranny is being committed against its people, how do you protect your children? Well, you need to rise up and take back your rights. You need to rise up and take back your country. You need to rise up and start protecting your children. So I just wanted to do this wee video guys, just to let people know that I'm in Edinburgh. I'm paying my respects to the children of our country buried in unmarked graves all over our country, to all the children in the care homes who have been trafficked. Earlier last week I bit my tongue and I've not said anything. I've held my water. I'm banned on everything anyway guys. I'm banned on the free Facebook accounts. I'm banned on the sex education groups. I'm banned on TikTok. I got my account deleted on TikTok for saying Jimmy Savile was a paedophile. So you weren't even allowed to say that lately either. So while everybody's mourning for the Queen in the country, I'm mourning for the children that have been raped, murdered and tortured in our country. I'm paying my respects to all the children that have died at the hands of this monarchy and the Vatican and the government. Not just one, not just the other. It's not just all the royals, not just all the Vatican. It's these are the people in power that run our world. These are the people in power that have been responsible for the trafficking and the rape and the murder and torture of our children for centuries. It has now got to a stage, I don't know about any of you guys, right? But I'll tell you something, I was born 43 years ago. In my childhood I had freedom. So when you say what's happened during the rule, well, in my time as a child, I was much more free than I'm on now. We don't have any freedom anymore. Our rights have been taken away from us. There's laws getting made, getting taken away from us. Who runs our country? Well, the ruler of our state is a monarchy. So if the ruler of the state's a monarchy and we've raised all these issues about children are being raped, trafficked, exploited at the hands of the state, then whose responsibility is it? The head of state should stand up and do something about it. But unfortunately, the head of state, and same as your governments, okayed children getting sold to Canada and Australia. These children gave horrific lives and sold to Canada and Australia. Not only that, there's British monarchies all over the world, right? And in every British monarchy all over the world, where they own land and they're the head of state there, there's children being raped and trafficked and buried in unmarked graves, just like in Scotland, right? Kamloops is one of them. They're found up to date before it was stopped on the media. They found, I think it was just over 1,000 children in unmarked graves. There's graves all over the world, the children in unmarked mass graves, right? The excavation of these graves are getting refused by the Crown. So we want to excavate these graves, but the excavation's getting refused by the Crown. So we could find out how many children, how many thousands of children are buried in all these graves all over the country, but like I said, the excavation's getting refused by the appropriate governments and the Crown. So they won't allow us to get the graves dug up. The same's happening in Scotland in Lanark. So we have, so the land is owned by the Catholic Church. There's children in a mass unmarked grave in Lanark. What led me to partake in fae Lanark? Well, I went to Lanark and I discovered another mass unmarked grave. You can't even Google where St Charles's Private Hospital was. But St Charles's Private Hospital in Broomhill Partick years ago, and it was for children with learning disabilities. So it was a psychiatric hospital. So there's another mass unmarked graves in St Mary's Cemetery in Lanark, and it's St Charles's Private Hospital, and it's owned by Prince Charles, now King Charles, right? So you want me to respect the monarchy and we have to pay them respects. What about the children? What about the children that they didn't respect? What about the hundreds of thousands of your ancestors that are lying in unmarked graves across your country? That they allowed the trafficking, rape and murder of them? Is nobody going to hold anybody responsible for that? They would just forget that happened. So I had to do this video, guys, I'm sorry, but I had to. So for all the historical abuse that took place in the care homes as well, the care homes are run by the state. The head of your state's a monarchy. So who's responsible? Who does the ball fall at the feet there? It's a monarchy, isn't it? Also the Catholic Church. Between the Catholic Church, the government and the monarchy are the biggest landowners in Scotland and anywhere in the world and anywhere in the country. So the children that are buried in all these unmarked graves, who does the ball fall at the feet again then? Because it's their land, it's their property the children are on. They're the ones refusing excavation of the grave sites. So they're the ones know that people can't discover the truth because of. So I would show them more respect if they would respect the fact that we're fighting a war against child trafficking and exploitation in the world, in this country. So they have all failed us, missus. I seen that comment there. Taking our land, our property, our estates, and instead of protecting it, they've taken it from us. None of us own nothing, and they're continuing to take anything else that we own, so that we own absolutely shit, so that we're powerless. We're powerless to these people. We're powerless to fight against them. We're powerless to fight back, because they're taking all our human rights away as well. We've lost our human rights. We've lost freedom of speech. You can't just say what you think anymore. You can't just have freedom of speech, or you could face prison these days. So where is our freedom? Our freedom has been taken from us. Who runs the country? The government and the monarchy. So who's taking our freedom phase? The government and the monarchy. Who's responsible for the fact that we're slaves and we're not free? The government and the monarchy. How do we take it back? Well, we need to rise up and we need to all rise. We need to all rise as one nation and say that we're sick of the tyranny, we're sick of the control, we're sick of the fact that we're being enslaved, and we have a God-given inalienable birthrights to be free. We have rights under the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I'm going into court next month in October. I was trying to prove they'd done a psychiatric assessment on me, which is fine. We don't need a psychiatric assessment anymore. But I'm going into the courts to say that because of tyranny and treason, and I got surrounded, my car got surrounded, my window smashed. Let me just tell you this story. On the 8th of September 2021, Prince Charles was in Partick. St Mary's Lanark led me to Partick because there's a private hospital there, that there was no survivors. It's a mass grave of children and adults with St Charles's Private Hospital in Broomhill, Partick, Glasgow, right? So the children are buried in a mass unmarked grave in St Mary's Cemetery in Lanark, along with the children of Smileham, another mass unmarked grave. Just a headstone marking all the children that are there. Doesn't tell you how many, doesn't tell you their names, doesn't tell you their ages. So then last year on the 8th of September, Prince Charles went to the Kelvin Grove Art Galleries in Partick and he opened. I've been fighting for 2 years to get these children named, to find out how many there are in the graves. I've been to Lanark Council, I've been to the Catholic Church, I've been to everywhere, right? They just keep shutting the doors in my face. So then I found St Charles's Private Hospital, so I went back to Glasgow and went to Partick, and I chapped the Freemasons door down there, because they're called St Mary's, and they're right next to the Kelvin Grove Art Galleries, but they wouldn't let me in. So I only wanted to ask them if they would help figure out how many children and their names. So then last year on the 8th of September I went and visited my granddad. Then I drove from my granddad's down Partick to head home. Found out that Prince Charles was at the Kelvin Grove Art Galleries opening, get this, opening a part of the art galleries in memory of the children of Savile. Now the children that were raped, tortured and murdered at the hands of the state. They were opening a part of the art galleries with pieces of their clothes, of their shoes. So they've got memorials kept in this art galleries of the children of Savile, but they won't tell the people of Scotland and their country the names and the ages and who these children were, how many of them. We know there's at least 1,000. So they'll get at least 1,000 children in unmarked graves in St Mary's Cemetery. We're not allowed to know the names, the general public. We're not allowed to know how many they are. We're not allowed to know what ages, the cause of death. We're not allowed to ask any of that. But they can open a part of the art galleries in memory of the children of Savile. Well, who are these children? And Prince Charles opened it. So I was causing it last year. I sat outside the Freemasons and I played Amazing Grace for the children of Savile outside the art galleries, and I was looking about Partick for Prince Charles, well now King Charles. Couldn't find him. The next minute my car was surrounded by God knows hundreds of police, right? There was about 60 odd police. There was armed response, there was the dog van, there was a drug squad, there was motorbikes, there were riot vans, there was police cars. They surrounded all my car. I'm up in court next month. My trial starts next month. They smashed my driver's window in my face and they dragged me out the car. They held me for 13 hours, they tried to section me, they couldn't section me, so they took me to Govan police station. I told them that I didn't consent to any of it, I wasn't giving them my name, so they held me for 13 hours. Still didn't consent, still wasn't giving them my name, and they threatened me with remand. So unless I signed an undertaking to attend court, to be released on bail conditions, my bail conditions were that I don't cause Police Scotland to be in a state of fear and alarm, and that I don't interfere with any of my police witnesses. I said, can I phone 999? And you know, they actually looked at each other and went, I don't know. So I don't even think I'm allowed to phone 999. So, bearing all that in mind, guys, I've been fighting this fight against child trafficking for 3 years now, out in these streets, hail, rain and snow, shouting about the children are getting trafficked at Glasgow's four corners. Nobody gives a shit about it. That our government has made legal child trafficking in Govan Hill in Glasgow. Like, it's actually legal. Prostitution's legal up there. The government have legalised it all. They're trafficking children. They're trafficking children through the tour companies. And you phone up and you can get a tour in Bangladesh and that, but they don't do any in Scotland. So the tour companies are trafficking humans up in Govan Hill, and it's all legal. There's parents up there pimping their wains out in the street corners. It's all legal. It's Nicola Sturgeon's constituency. It's our First Minister's constituency. The child trafficking doesn't just stop there. The landowners taking over all the land and property in Govan Hill. They're now taking over all the land and property in Glasgow city centre. The traffickers are in the nightclubs, the traffickers own takeaway shops, the traffickers own 24-hour news agents, the traffickers own petrol stations, they own taxis, they're working as stewards in the nightclubs with our young lassies. They're getting injected in the nightclubs in Glasgow, injected with something. Then the stewards are putting them out and the traffickers are picking them up. So that's what's going on in your streets of Glasgow, and I have to have sympathy and grieve for the monarch. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm grieving here today for our children that are being trafficked, raped, tortured and murdered on our streets. And no head of state's coming to save them. No government's coming to save them. It's down to the people of Scotland to save these kids. And I'm not kidding on, it's down to us to save our children in our country. But as like I said, we don't have any rights, we don't have any freedom, we don't have freedom of speech, we have fuck all, right? So when do you say enough's enough? Through all the COVID stuff and all that, they've taken everything you own off you, you've spent your life savings, you've had to sell your houses, you've lost your businesses, right? Who's the head of state? The monarch. Who's taking it off of you? The monarch and the government. So I just had to say that. So I just had to also remind you, I don't know if you're aware, right, but there was a massive police operation. I don't know if it was Operation Planet, something like that, right? I'll need to Google it. Operation Planet, I'm sure it was. That uncovered that members of the royal family and top politicians in Westminster's, and I'm talking about ex-prime ministers, were part of a paedophile ring, and it was shut down as a matter of national security. So the police were investigating this paedophile ring, right, globally. They got celebrities caught by it, like radio DJs, elites get caught with this massive police operation, right, in 2017, I think. Now, during that police operation, it came to light that 2 members of the royal family and at least 2 ex-prime ministers were part of a paedophile ring, a global paedophile network, right? Do you know MI6 came right in and shut the police down? MI6 came right in and shut the police down and said it was a matter of national security, right? So they went and took all the people that were doing the investigation away, right? To obviously, don't know, have words with them to tell them to shut up. That they couldn't say that they were paedophiles because they were members of the royal family, right? So the members of the royal family, the head of state. So what does that tell you? They're allowed to traffic, rape, torture, murder children, and nobody's allowed to say anything because our country protects them. Our country keeps them safe for other countries' leaders, and our country protects them. So I'm sorry, but I refuse to grieve for them. I want to grieve for the children that are buried in unmarked graves all over our country. Edinburgh. Where do you start with Edinburgh? Edinburgh's rent boy scandal. The rent boy scandal, one of the wee boys alone were tied up in a flat in Edinburgh and he was gang raped for 10 days by top politicians, right in a flat in Edinburgh. The wee boy escaped and ran into the street screaming for help naked, and somebody found him. That's how it came to light about the Edinburgh rent boy scandal. What was happening? Politicians were grooming the children in care homes. Scottish politicians were grooming our children in care homes. And then, when they were leaving care, they were putting them up in flats across Edinburgh and pimping them out to politicians. So the boys got free rent in return for having sex with politicians. These boys to this day in Edinburgh are like your drug users, they're suicidal because they've been silenced, right? They've never had any justice. Some of them can't even get rehab because then they'll have to write in the records what they're getting rehab for. So, like I said, it's the Queen, it's the monarch that appoints our judges in Scotland, right? So people say, what's it got to do with Scotland? Well, the head of state, the monarch, appoints our judges in Scotland. For anybody that doesn't know, in Scotland's legal and justice system, we have a massive paedophile ring that's never been uncovered. The Dunblane shooting, the shooting of all the children in Dunblane, was because of a paedophile ring. Thomas Hamilton used the shooting ranges in the Queen Victoria School in Dunblane. The Queen Victoria School in Dunblane is a Ministry of Defence school run by the head of state. In that Ministry of Defence school, in the Queen Victoria School in Dunblane, the whole school was run by ex-military masons. None of them had teaching qualifications between them at one point. These children were groomed and pimped out to elites, right? I've done a lot of research into how were the children booked out on weekend trips to be attending sex parties, to entertain the elites, to dress up in their kilts, to then be drugged and gang raped. And how did the parents know that they were being pimped out? Well, I realise when your child's in a boarding school, the school has guardianship, so the school can book them out. So the school gave permission for these elites to book children out and take them on yachts, gang rape them, drug them, send them back to the school. If you want to Google Glenn Harrison, the housemaster of the Queen Victoria School, he tried to raise concerns for 20 years. He reported it to the police and ended in his door getting kicked in and all his 20 years of research and evidence taken off him. Why? Because Scotland protects elite paedophiles, because our country is run by a massive paedophile ring and they profit in the trafficking and exploitation of us. See us, normal citizens, born as children, whether we put in care, whether we're wherever we are, right? That's their profit. We are merchandise to them. They just buy and sell us as much as they like. If they want one of our children, well, they just have them, they own everything. They run your schools, they run your institutions. So like I said, there's a paedophile ring in Dunblane. Right, so not only that, did a lot of research and there's a live on this YouTube as well about Barnardo's charity. Who is the head of Barnardo's charity? The head of Barnardo's charity is King Charles and Camilla. Barnardo's charity have been responsible for the rape, trafficking, torture and murdering of children for over a century. Who's been in power and head of state for the last 100 years? Whose responsibility is it? Who was the head of Barnardo's charity? The Queen and Prince Philip, and then now it's Prince Charles and Camilla. Now Barnardo's charity, I don't know where to start. Barnardo's charity were responsible for the home children. So if you look at British home children, when they were all rounded up in all the care homes, First World War, Second World War, and all the care homes, Dr. Barnardo set up receiving units in Canada. So he went away to Canada and set up receiving units. Before they'd even procured the children to send to Canada, he went out to Canada and set up the secure units, secured the places for them to go to, right? So Dr. Barnardo went to Canada and got these receiving units for all the children. The Scottish Government and the UK Government, along with social services, rounded all the children up. Then Barnardo not only trafficked the children to these countries, to Canada, he had 3 receiving units in Canada, but he not only trafficked Scottish children to these receiving units, he falsified their birth certificates. He changed all their birth certificates, so these children were not only trafficked for Scotland, they could never find their roots, they could never find their real names, they could never find their true family again. Right? And a lot of these children's parents were still alive. A lot of these children's parents just put their children into like temporary 7-day care because they were working, they were nurses during the war, etc, etc. No, all these children that were in orphanages were actual orphans. Like Sandy Smith will tell you. Sandy wasn't an orphanage, her mum and dad, they were just working away. So he had to go to an orphanage during the week and he went home at the weekends. So no, all these children were orphans. One of my windows is open, the back one. 2 seconds guys, because my battery's going to run out. I'm not quite ready to go yet. So, like I said, these children, no, all these children were orphaned, but they were trafficked. Who was the head of Barnardo's charity? Well, the royal family. Who's still head board members of the Barnardo's charity? It's King Charles. The Scottish Government, Nicola Sturgeon, after they were found guilty in the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry, of destroying all the survivors' records. So not only were they raped, trafficked and abused through Barnardo's care homes in Scotland, they also destroyed all these children's records so that they could never prove they were there. Their medical records so they could never see what they were treated for. They admitted it in the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry. They admitted destroying the records, and they also admitted lying to survivors, saying they get damaged in a flood or a fire, destroyed them because they didn't want the world to know the truth about the way they abuse children. So I couldn't let this day go by and no visit Edinburgh and have Memorial Day for the children, and like I said, leave a wee crystal, and hopefully all these souls of the children will be set free when the Queen leaves Scotland. All the ones under her rule that were kept a secret in these graves, who are still a secret in these graves, and who I'm going to keep fighting for in these graves. And I'm not going to rest until the day I know the names and the ages of all these children. At the end of the day, guys, right, we stay in Scotland, there's thousands of children in unmarked graves all over our country, right? How do we stop that ever happening again if we just ignore it? So see if we just ignore it and let them do what they're doing right now, which is building houses. So right now in Scotland, as we speak, they're selling this land to property developers who are going to build houses on all the children in unmarked graves. So you'll never get to uncover how many children are in there because they're going to build estates on them. So I'm not going to stop fighting, and like I said, they build houses on them. Then I'll go with leaflets and I'll put leaflets through every single person's door in their private property and ask them, do you know there's children buried underneath you? Thousands of them, raped, murdered and tortured by the hands of the state, the hands of the Vatican, the Catholic Church in your country. The Catholic Church and the monarchy are responsible for all this rape, murder, torture, trafficking of your children for over a century. So when I done research on Barnardo's charity, so I found a Barnardo's run care home on the borders of Scotland, one of the very oldest. I've got pictures of it somewhere, guys. I'll try and do a live. I'm going to try and go on YouTube and be able to get pictures up, show you all the research and all the places I've been. So this one is, so there's a Barnardo's castle right in the borders of Scotland, right? It is owned by King Charles. So the land and the property is owned by King Charles. I went down last year, just before I was in Lanark and I get arrested. I was there. So they've closed it all down, right? So in this Barnardo's home in particular, this Barnardo's castle, children suffered satanic ritual abuse. So not only were they sexually abused and degraded, it was also ritual abuse as part of rituals that's taking place, all proven in the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry, this one actually. It's all proven, it's out there. So if you go and Google it, they were going to do a documentary, right? So I went last year, and it says, royal land, do not enter, private property, etc, etc. I googled who owned it. Prince Charles then, King Charles now. So I went, oh, what do we do? Because Mandy needs to be nosy. So I broke in. I had to break in. I had to take a brick out the wall and the fences out the wall. And I broke in, I had to. When I went through the forest, right, it was definitely set up for hunting, right? But it just doesn't look good, right? So in the forest there's tripwires, there's a bit to hang up the animal and obviously let the blood drip at them. It's just horrific. It was scary as fuck, right? Now I can see, to me it still looked active. To me it still looked, there was pentagram curtains on the windows, a pentagram, and it just still didn't look good. It just didn't look right. They said there was 20, but they would emptied it all, like single beds out it and all that, and they were on the skips. So it was just didn't look good. But anyway, again, so then I done research on that, and during the First World War, they trafficked hundreds, thousands of children through that home for Liverpool. So they took hundreds, I don't know what happened in Liverpool, but they took hundreds of children for Liverpool to this castle, Barnardo's castle on the borders. The children were basically made slaves. They were basically made to work, and they were sold as well. They were another load of the children that were sold to Canada and Australia. So like I said, the head of your states have shipped and moved about children for decades, centuries. They sell their children, that's what they do. They make money on us, like the sellers, the buying sellers. It is really that simple. And we make shit. Like, we just work for nothing. We just fucking work to pay all our bills and we're slaves. We just work to try and protect our children and give them the best life possible, but we never kind of make ends meet. And why is that? Because anything we did own, our land, estate, or property, like I said, over decades and centuries, it's slowly been taken away from us. So if you ask me, we've already been invaded. Like Scotland's already taken by the Crown. Like, I know we had William Wallace fighting a war, Scotland against England, etc, etc. Well, didn't matter what the results of that were. I was actually wondering if I brought the Declaration of Arbroath with me today, but I don't know if any of you should do a bit of research on that. Thought I didn't know if it had any more power while the Crown's here. I would imagine it would, right? But I never had time to research it. I just buried my wee daddy last week. So my wee daddy got buried on the Wednesday. My daddy got buried on the Wednesday last week, the 7th, and Her Majesty died on the 8th. Well, I was in Partick again fighting for my granddad, who they've stole and put in a care home, social services, but I'm looking into that one. So Like I said, our families are getting murdered in hospitals, they're getting murdered in care homes. Your families are all slowly dying, getting slaughtered. You have no rights, you have no freedom, you have no human rights. When are you all going to realise that you are slaves, that you have not got any freedom? That we've not been free for a very, very long time? And who is responsible for that? Like I said, well, who runs the country? Who's the head of state? The monarchy. So that's their responsibility, that we've been enslaved. It's their responsibility that we have no freedom of speech. It's their responsibility that our children are being raped and trafficked and tortured. It's their responsibility that it's still happening all these decades later when we've been highlighting it for decades now. Like, why have they not put an end to it? Why have they not put a stop to it? Because they have the power to. These people have the power to put an end to this, but they've chose not to. What does that tell you? These people are responsible for it. That's why they've not put an end to it. Because they make billions and billions of pounds out of selling our children. So this gets me to the final wee part of my video, right? So you've got all that, you've got everything that's happened in the last 10 decades during the monarchy that's in existence right now. Under the Vatican and the monarchy, in the last 100 years, there's been children trafficked to Canada, Australia, children raped, murdered, tortured in our country, children being held part of rituals and satanic ritual abuse in Scotland, in my newspapers right now. There's been, let me have a wee look, there's been the judges and the lawyers in Scotland that have been 100 Year Secrecy Act that's been put on it by the head of state to protect paedophiles and high places. Right, so again, the Queen Victoria School in Dunblane highlighted royal paedophiles as well as politician paedophiles. The day the shooter, Thomas Hamilton, used the shooting ranges on the Queen Victoria School in Dunblane. So he used their shooting ranges and he was a friend of the school. Thomas Hamilton procured children for elites. That's why he ran children's clubs where he groomed and sexually abused the children, so that he was preparing the children for elites, politicians, senior members, lords, advocates, members of the royal family, etc, etc, etc. That all happened in Dunblane in Scotland. When the paedophile ring was getting exposed, the children were murdered in Dunblane Primary School, and that put the lid back on it, because when the children were murdered, the court case, when it was being held in court, they put 100 Year Secrecy Act on it. So nobody can speak about who was involved in that for 100 years. So what does that tell you? The existing monarch that are responsible will no longer be here in 100 years. That's why there's a 100 Year Secrecy Act put on it to protect them. Same as the massive police operation that was shut down as a matter of national security to protect them. Because your country's always going to protect these people. Always. Our governments are always going to protect them because they're involved. I don't know how much more I can stress that to you. Like I said, on your new head of monarch, King Charles, well, he was best friends with Jimmy Savile, a prolific paedophile, and he knew him since he was 8 years old. It is now known that Jimmy Savile committed horrific crimes against children and procured children for the elites. Don't tell me that the royal family did not know Jimmy Savile was a paedophile. Look at the security they've got. They have MI5, they have MI6, they have the Queen's Guards, they have all these special intelligence agencies. So Jimmy Savile was kicking about the whole entire world, letting himself into NHS hospitals, raping children, letting himself into children's psychiatric hospitals, raping children, letting himself into care homes, raping children, and none of these people knew about it. Bullshit. Bullshit. There is no way with security and intelligence services like that that they couldn't have known. So I know people go like that, but the world didn't know Jimmy Savile was a paedophile until no, they didn't, until the survivors started speaking out and mentioning who he was connected to and what happened, and then what happened? They all get shut up, they get murdered, they get silenced. Same as Holly Gregg's uncle. Exposed a paedophile ring in the legal and justice system in Scotland. What happened to him? He got murdered before he could give evidence against him. So like I said, Jimmy Savile was a prolific paedophile who procured children for the elites. That's why he had a permit to go into any place he wanted. That's why he had a platform on the BBC. That's why he had a platform and everything that he had a platform in, because it was gave to him by the monarch. Because he was a good paedophile at procuring children and keeping under the radar. He was a sick motherfucker and he was friends of the monarch. So don't tell me they didn't know about him when they have intelligence services like they have. Their job is to know who everybody that's anywhere near them is, to know what they had for breakfast in the morning. So do not tell me they did not know Jimmy Savile was raping children. Aye, they did. And like I said, they're entitled to mourn their monarchy today. Well, I'm entitled to tell the truth. I'm entitled to mourn the children of this country that have died while the monarchy's been in rule, while the Vatican's been in rule. So what's happening now in Scotland? What do I ask you right now? Well, right now it's a sex education, right? Because this sex education is a global sex education, right? The global sex education programme was designed and created by global elite paedophiles. Why? To make their problems go away, to make paedophilia normal, to give your children sexual rights, which means, and these people believe that your child has a right to have an orgasm to birth, right? Why are they bringing the sex education into the schools? To indoctrinate all the children. In Scotland, what is it? It's a health and well-being curriculum for excellence. Who backs a curriculum for excellence? The monarchy. So when we get our government to back down and say no, who enforces it? The monarchy. Who's responsible for the sexualisation of all our children? The monarchy. Who wants it to go ahead? The monarchy. Why? Because it makes all the problems disappear. Because paedophilia becomes normal, the age of consent gets lowered, they're no longer responsible for all these crimes against our children because it's no longer a crime, right? Pretty simple, that's what your sex education is about. It is no longer a crime for all these horrific crimes that we've been exposing, all these children being raped, tortured, murdered, trafficked, sold to royal elite paedophiles, to politician paedophiles. It's no longer a crime if a sex education programme gets into your schools the way it has. So currently right now your sex education stands in 52 countries. It's been executed right now in 52 countries globally across the world. With one aim, sexualisation of your children, gender confusing, because children that are confused by their gender are more easily to groom and abuse, in case you didn't know. Also, they will be administering medication to your children, hormone blockers, which will stop your children going through puberty until they decide what gender they want to be. What does that create for paedophiles? It creates children trapped in a child's body for longer than they should be. Hormone blockers stop your child from going through puberty. So if your child still hasn't decided at 16 whether they want to be a boy or whether they want to be a girl, they'll still be on hormone blockers, which means they won't have hit puberty yet, which means that 16-year-old will still have a child's body, right? Another sick, sinister thing, prolonging the bodies of children for longer for the paedophiles to rape and abuse, for their sick motherfucking kicks. Look at the United States of America right now. Go and Google the USA and the sex education, right? Our governments, our crown, our monarchy passed this in 2009. Our country has been taking money for the sexual indoctrination, sexualisation, indoctrination of our children since 2009. Anybody that thinks there's an opt-out, no, this is the next part of the global agenda. Sexualisation of all your children. The paedophiles' problems go away, which means the paedophiles that run the world, problems go away. There is nobody to call them criminals anymore. We're the criminals. We're the criminals for traumatising everybody. We're the criminals for traumatising the children and telling the children that that shouldn't have happened. So we caused the trauma. The paedophiles only want to care for them and love them and touch them, right? They don't want to cause them harm and trauma. We are the ones that traumatise the children when we tell the children that it's wrong. When we're the ones that traumatise the children when we drag the child through a court to prosecute the paedophile. This is I'm trying to show you the way their mind works, right? It is no secret. The age of consent was backed by the monarch getting abolished in 1976. So go look at the age of consent reform in the 70s, right? It was the Westminster government, backed by the monarchy. They wanted to abolish the age of consent, but they said there'd be public outcry. So they went for recommendations that the age of consent should be lowered to 10 years old. What happened in Scotland last year? There was a World Declaration signed, right? And it was backed by Stonewall Scotland and the LGBT community. And it was signed, this declaration, and the declaration was recommendations to lower the age of consent to 10 years old, and also abolish all laws that abolish all laws that allowed adults with learning disabilities to consent to sex. Abolish the laws that, like, your 16-year-old daughter with Down syndrome, to be able to consent to sex would need your permission or a carer's permission or whatever, right? They don't need that if they get this, right? So they're already gone for lowering the age of consent globally to 10 years old and abolishing all laws that restrict adults with learning disabilities consenting to sex on their own. What's already happened? Nicola Sturgeon paid lobbyists £1.1 million last year who backed this declaration, and she let them go lobby it. What happened in Scotland under the Relationship, Sexual Health and Parenthood Education? The age of consent was already lowered last year, for any of you that don't know, to 13 years old in Scotland. In Scotland, go and Google it, go into the website www.rshp.scot. At the top right hand corner, there's 3 wee lines. If you click on the 3 lines and scroll down to levels, and there you will find all the teaching materials your children's been shown. There's also teaching, if you don't go into levels and click in AS, so Asperger's syndrome, so click in the children with learning disabilities, right? What the sex education it's porn that they're going to be teaching your children. Now I'm talking about children with Down syndrome, children who are autistic, children with severe learning disabilities. The sex education programme and materials for them are so much more explicit than the mainstream children's. Why? I can't get my head around it. Well, the children with learning disabilities can't tell you, can they? They can just act it out, so their experiment begins there. Go and look at the pornographic. I can't even put them on, that's what I'm banned on everything for. I'm banned for showing you the sex education materials that they're bringing into your school and making mandatory by the end of September. By the end of this month, you're going to have a global sex education programme, mandatory in Scotland. Why is it mandatory? Well, you've had your opt-out. If you look at all the teaching, everybody's gone, oh, calm down, it's okay, you can still opt out in Scotland, you can opt out in Scotland. Calm down, you can opt out. No, you can't. Scotland have piloted it since 2019, which means they've piloted it for 3 years in your schools. I have a video there. I have a video here of a Scottish teacher, right? A Scottish teacher, I've got a recording of a Scottish teacher discussing how they teach this relationship, sexual health and parenthood, right? Now, they are in the schools with learning disabilities. They have got a programme where they're going to be massaging your children, but the massaging causes sexual stimulation, right? So I don't know what the massages are, but they're discussing massaging and how the children are getting sexually aroused. Could they change the type of massage or whatever? So maybe we could change the type of massage. What teacher's comfortable with sexually arousing a child? What teacher is comfortable for part of the relationship, sexual health and parenthood for an autistic child is you getting them sexually aroused? When did that stop becoming teaching and become sexual abuse? So the children, the teachers are getting permission to sexually arouse your children through massage in Scotland. It's already in your schools. So see if you've got a children in a special school in Scotland, in a special needs school, guys, I would seriously be concerned, right? They're being sexually abused right now by the state, by a curriculum for excellence enforced by the monarchy, right? Your children are being sexually abused in your schools. I'm not kidding on, I'm not just making this shit up. www.rshp.scot. This is a global sex education programme, right? Your children's research and data is your children are part of a global experiment right now, right? I can't stress this enough. I've did hundreds of research. You are aware of the sex censuses that Scotland are asking your children. How many times did you have anal sex last year? How many sexual partners did you have last year? What age were you the first time you had sex, 13 years or younger? This is all aimed at lowering the age of consent, guys, right? Because they'll use these questions and answers to say, well, they already have. They've already, before they even ask the questions, they'll lower it to 13. They're just playing catch up. They're just getting back up for when you say why we lowered the age of consent. Well, look at all these children at 13 having sex. We had to, right? That's what they're going to tell you. Scotland have got 14 legislations behind this education. We have also got it as a curriculum for excellence. We have the Crown, we have the monarchy behind this education to enforce it. We have UNESCO, United Nations, we have CICAS in America. So United Nations, UNESCO is a massive research centre, right? Is for your children, right? It's data to get collected. CICAS in America, another sexuality education research facility centre. UNESCO, Sexuality Education Research Facility Centre, right? So how does it work? Well, Scotland's got censuses. Through relationship, sexual health and parenthood and the new health and wellbeing curriculum for excellence by the monarchy, your children are getting asked questions on this census from 6 years old. So the 6 years old questions aren't sexual, but they start becoming sexual at 10. But at 6 the censuses are things like what do you eat for your dinner? What time do you go to bed at night? Who are your favourite people? Who lives in your home? How many pets have you got? Etc, etc. Profiling your children. Gathering a profile on your child for 6 years old. Where does this information get stored? It gets gathered by all the local authorities in Scotland. So you have like Edinburgh City Council, Glasgow City Council. So all these censuses you've got out to your Scottish schools, the local councils in that area for all the schools. Then they collect it all. It gets the IT staff and your local council, Glasgow City Council, then put all your children's details along with a Scottish candidate number, which the Scottish candidate number has another system, guys. You think your children haven't been identified, they are. The Scottish candidate number has another system where your child's personal details are stored. Their name, their address, their date of birth, etc, etc. So they know everything about your child. So with the candidate number, the censuses are issued. It's a sick way to get your information without you actually knowing what they're gathering. I've looked at where they'll be storing it. I've checked out the teaching documents for 2014 they were created. So the Scottish teachers have been getting told about this new health and wellbeing curriculum for excellence involving relationship, sexual health and parenthood and new sex education programme since 2014. So that is now 8 years. 8 years your teachers have been getting put in training courses, have been getting shown materials. So there's no way the teachers in Scotland can say they don't know about this, guys. They're talking shite if they do. I've read the teaching documents, maybe they just didn't read them. I've read them and I'm not a teacher. They were created in 2014. And there it's got recommendations for the teachers, what they should use, what they can use. It's got links to the World Health Organisation. It's got links to CICAS in America. It's got links to the UNESCO, the United Nations. What does it mean? Well, it means that the health and wellbeing curriculum for excellence is global, right? It's been taught in 52 countries, relationship, sexual health and parenthood in Scotland. RSE in Wales, RSHP Scotland, and the real name for it is CSE. So they've replaced the name and their letters CSE, which in my head stands for Child Sexual Exploitation. CSE, and all my letters for government is Child Sexual Exploitation. Your new sex education for your children is called CSE. So it's going to be globally known CSE as the new comprehensive sex education rather than child sexual exploitation. That's scrapped. We don't have that anymore. We have comprehensive sexuality education instead of child sexual exploitation. We have comprehensive sexuality education. It's been replaced. This is your new sex education. As I said, global, in 52 countries it's been in the new. It's been piloted in 38 schools across Scotland since 2019. The documents are all ready to go. It was rolled out in the last 4 weeks of the summer holidays in every school in Scotland, so your children have touched on it, whether you think it or no, your children have touched on it. It was rolled out in every single school across Scotland the last 4 weeks. I don't, whether they're calling it something else, they call it all different names, right? But it's called RSHP education. So because it's a curriculum for excellence, your sex education is now incorporated into every subject across your school curriculum. So you think there's opt-out, take your child out of relationship, sexual health and parenthood, but it's incorporated into every subject in their school curriculum, which means maths, English, language, physical education. This sex education is incorporated into all of them. So how can you remove your child out of that subject when it's a whole curriculum for excellence? You can't. There is no opt-out, it's an illusion. The opt-out is a total illusion. They've gave you the illusion of opt-out because they knew you would never catch up to figure out what's actually going on before it becomes mandatory. When does it become mandatory? At the end of September this year. When can you no longer opt your children out? In about 3 weeks. In about 3 weeks' time, you can no longer opt your children out. Even now, if you opt your children out, they'll fall behind in the health and wellbeing curriculum for excellence. So social services and Education Scotland will be pulling you as a parent aside to ask you what you're going to do about this. That's what they're going to do. For people that are religious, for people that are Muslim that don't agree with it, get your children out your schools in Scotland because they're going to be sexualised against your beliefs. There's no such thing in this as religion. It's a curriculum for excellence and it's health and wellbeing curriculum for excellence. So it's a matter of your child's health and wellbeing that they get taught this. Police Scotland can't get involved. Don't know about other countries, but in Scotland they can't get involved because it's a health and wellbeing curriculum for excellence. We have stressed to Police Scotland that asking the children questions about how many times they'd anal sex last year is inappropriate, that it's sexual communication by a child under the Sexual Crimes Act. So we've actually tried to speak to the Sexual Crimes Unit of Police to say that there's sexual exploitation by government going on here in the education system. Police Scotland looked into it, came back, sorry, hands tied, can't help yous. Police Scotland are not allowed to get involved in health, politics or religion. And unfortunately the new sex education has been brought under health and wellbeing. So it's a health issue. Police Scotland can't get involved. Well, they rape your children in school, they can't get involved because it's been brought under health. So even when I went to fight with them, he said, look, the Scottish Government have got good lawyers. And I said, no, get it right. The Scottish Government are all lawyers. They just get another lawyer to do what they want them to do because it's a, what do you call that? It's, if they did their own legal shit, then it's, what do you call that? You can't do that because of your job you're in. So like, for instance, Nicola Sturgeon has a law degree, but she can't be her own lawyer because it's a, what do you call that? When it hangs with your job, there's a word for it. So, a conflict of interest. So she can't be her own lawyer, do the legal stuff in the Scottish Parliament because it's a conflict of interest, because she's a politician, she's First Minister, she's not the legal counsel, right? So but they're all lawyers, they know what they're doing, right? So they sat and done all this and then they get the lawyers to do the legal part. So it's passed under health and wellbeing. So Police Scotland can't get involved. So they knew Police Scotland would be able to get involved before we even tried to involve them. They knew it was a no-go. So what can we do in Scotland? Well, your police won't do anything. Your police also won't do anything. 4 weeks before the schools broke up, and relationship, sexual health and parenthood was getting rolled out in a school in Edinburgh, as I speak, as I'm in Edinburgh actually. Directly after an RSHP lesson, 2 older children held down a younger child in the toilets and raped them. Because they were just taught a sex education lesson, that there's your proof that the children don't understand and that they don't have the maturity to understand and deal with the lesson content that they're being shown. Because if they had the maturity, they wouldn't be raping younger children already, would they? And thinking that it's fine, that they just want to experiment and try it out. That was only in the first 4 weeks. What the hell's going on? I know about an autistic child behaving inappropriately after being shown the stuff, making noises in class. What did the school do with them? Separated them, caused behaviour issues, behavioural issues because he got angry and aggressive because he was separated, because he felt like he didn't understand what he'd done wrong, because they taught him how to do this stuff. Then when he was acting it out in class, they told him it was inappropriate and removed him from the class. Then he kicked off and had a meltdown, and he got suspended from school. So because the Scottish Government and education system sexually exploiting children with learning difficulties who can't possibly emotionally understand this stuff, they then get separated from other children and made to feel that they're in the wrong. That's further abuse. That's emotional, psychological and sexual abuse. Then not only that, it gets excluded from school completely because it doesn't know how to comprehend how to behave sexually. So then they're punishing the child. Then not only that, the parents are getting the blame of his behaviour, by the way. Not the school for showing him the sex education, the parents. The parents are getting the blame of his behaviour problems. What else? An older child sexually abused one of their siblings because they wanted to take them in the bedroom and show them where their vulva was. And the child was lying down with her legs opened and the boy was showing them where the vulva was. All hell broke loose in the family. They thought there was sexual abuse taking place. No, it's just the Scottish education, sex education, that unfortunately the 6-year-old didn't know he wasn't supposed to show the 3-year-old where her vulva was. So there was a breakdown of communication there because, as I said, they don't have the maturity to understand this information they're being taught. What's going to happen with sex education? Your children are all going to be sexualised because they're all going to become curious and experimental. If you show 3-year-olds where their vulvas in the bushes at playtime showing each other their vulvas, their scrotums and their rectum, where's yours and what does it look like? Natural curiosity, innocent children. Then the older children won't comprehend what they've been taught and how they're just curious and naturally want to experiment, and they've got brothers and sisters at home. Well, they're all going to be experimenting, and the older siblings are going to be telling the younger siblings what they were taught in school, or what you got to say. You got to take them aside and not threaten them that they're not allowed to say this now, that they have to keep secrets. What else has happened under the sex education? Scotland's made it legal for 4-year-olds to change their name and gender at age 4, use a different toilet while at school, and wear different clothes and be called a different name. So, like I said, Scott can go to school and be Sophie, wear a dress and use the girls' toilets all day. The school teachers have been warned not to tell the parents, and I mean warned not to tell them. It's to be kept a secret. So again, there's another safeguarding issue. Your child's isolated, making a decision to change their gender when they don't even understand what that decision is. The school's enforcing it and going to go along with it and say he wants to be a boy and issue hormone blockers by the state. But not only that, your child's now got an identity confusion issue and you're not aware of it because it's been kept hidden from you by the school. Not only that, if you've got other siblings at the school, brothers and sisters, they possibly might know that their brother or sister's changing gender while in school, but they're not allowed to tell you. So your older children are forced to keep secrets. Not only that, all the teachers in the school will know that your child's changing gender while in school, or the other teachers will know, or the other pupils in the school will know, other siblings will know, but the parents have not to know. First safeguarding red flag. Why are they teaching children to keep secrets for their parents at such a young age? They're grooming them. They're grooming them. They're grooming your children, guys. They're grooming your children. What else has Scotland done? Also Scotland, if you go and Google this, it's a story. An outside body is paid to come into Scottish schools and teach a relationship, sexual health and parenthood lesson. And during that lesson, he was promoting prostitution. Now tell me this isn't child sexual exploitation. When you have outside institutions coming into your schools to tell them that prostitution can be a rewarding job. Google that headline, Scotland, prostitution can be a rewarding job. He gets paid £500 a day to come into the schools and teach that to your children. So your children for 13, so they're groomed all the way right up to be sexualised, to know all the names, to learn in full sex at 8, to be then told at 13 that prostitution can be a rewarding job. So they're going to groom your children to pimp themselves out to these elites that have been paying traffickers. They're going to groom your children so that they pimp themselves out to these people and make them think it's alright, it's a rewarding job. Scotland's already telling them it's a rewarding job. Honestly guys, I can't stress enough, there's a massive child protection and safeguarding issue in Scotland. And again, I'm just going to end it there, right? this sex education I could talk about all year, because so UNESCO are still linked to the Kinsey Institute. So go and Google Alfred Kinsey and the Kinsey Institute's research. This is where all their policies and frameworks and their stages of development come from, is the Kinsey Institute. So UNESCO are closely linked to the Kinsey Institute, right? So is CCUS, policies, framework, stages of development taken for the Kinsey Institute. Alfred Kinsey paid paedophiles to prove this shit. Paid paedophiles to prove that children could have orgasms from birth. Paid paedophiles to time children with a stopwatch how many orgasms they could have in 24 hours. Children for 5 months or table 31, go Google that. Table 31, and you've got a list of all these children, 5 months old, how many orgasms they had in a 24-hour period. One of the children's 24 hours. One of the children, the paedophile tortured them for 24 hours. What was this research and data for? To prove that your children can have orgasms for birth. To prove that your children should have sexual rights. To prove that incest is normal, that it's natural to experiment with your brothers and sisters and to give them orgasms, etc, etc. Who's now using this? The global sex education system, the global sex education programme that's been brought into all your schools, because we already live in the big kid. So Alfred Kinsey's research, well, his research and his work was in his books were based on interviewing all these people and, like I said, paying paedophiles to rape children, to give them orgasms and put it on a stopwatch. Not only that, he went to prisons and he interviewed murderers and rapists, and he gathered all this research, sexuality, and basically fucking he's sick as fuck, right? So we have to create a society based on the norms of sociopaths, psychopaths, murderers and paedophiles. So his society and all his books and his research were based on, like I just mentioned, the people. So we're creating a normal society to be full of the people, that's a normal society. Rapists, murderers, fucking sex pests, paedophiles, predators. Well, like I said, we're already way far into that, guys. I've said it before. We live in a real life Kinsey Institute. The people that run our country, the people that are in our government, well, these people are already rapists, paedophiles and murderers. What's their next part of their plan? The sexualisation of all your children, so that the world is a paedophile haven for these fucking elite paedophiles that run the world, that want all the problems to go away by abolishing the age of consent through a sex education system now hitting your schools in Scotland. So guys, I'm going to go, right? Take care, and I hope you all have a good day. And like I said, there's my wee candle. I'm lighting a wee candle there for the children. I've got my wee star crystals, and I'm going to bury one of them in Edinburgh as a wee memorial and say a wee prayer that, I don't know, that our people can all rise up and take back what's ours. Take back everything that's been stolen from us, because it has. And not just that, they're about to steal your children's innocence forever and ever and ever. Does the innocence of children no matter to anybody on this planet anymore? Is it no something worth protecting? Is it no sacred? Is the children's innocence no sacred? Do we no have children to protect them from these monsters? Do we no bring children into this world to keep them safe and let them have a childhood? Is it no important to anybody anymore that children deserve a childhood? Is it no important to anymore that children deserve to be innocent? That they've got all the time in the world to be adults and be sexualised? They've got the rest of their whole entire lives. Why can we not keep them children? Why can we not let our children just be children? Why can we not protect our children for these paedophiles and protect their rights to be children? Because I said I'm going to die fighting for the rights of your children in this country, because I'm not having it. I can't leave this planet and die knowing that I've done fuck all against the tyranny, the corruption and the levels of child trafficking and exploitation in our country. Like, I don't care if I get murdered, I don't care if they take me away and torture me, I really don't give a shit. I will keep telling the truth, so that in the hope that one day you all know the fucking truth of the people that run your country, and one day you rise up and actually protect your children. Take back what's yours and put them out. Tell them due to tyranny and treason and mass murder and horrific crimes against humanity that they no longer deserve to be there. Only us, the people, can remove them. Only us, the people, have the power to remove these people. Only us, the people, can protect our children, because they're being exploited by the monarchy and by the government. So it's only us. The power was with the people in this one. The people need to rise up and start protecting your children. You need to rise up and start protecting the fucking innocence of your children, the future freedom. When you die, what have you done for your children's future? Left them a future where they're slaves, where the whole entire humanity has been enslaved by these monsters that run it. These monsters that have power over us all. Well, I think it's about time we took back that power. I think it's about time we stood up and showed the children why we were born, that we were born to protect them, why we gave birth to them, because we'll fight to the death to do what's right for our children. And what's right for our children isn't the state of our country, guys. I had freedom when I was younger. I could go out and be free when I was a child. Our children don't have that freedom. Our children are raped, trafficked, stopped, groomed and exploited with that freedom now. So it's down to us to make our country safe for our children. It's down to us to take the freedom back so that when we all die, our children live in a free country. And I'm going to die trying. Like I said, I've got court next month. At court next month, I'll be standing up. I don't know how it's going to go now. I'm going to go and do some more research, because I'm standing up in the courts to prove that there's the birth certificate fraud, to prove that I did not consent to being incorporated, that I did not consent to being ruled over by a tyrannical government, that I did not consent to being ruled over by a tyrannical monarchy, that I didn't give my consent and permission for that. But when I was born, it was given for me by my birth certificate, and I was incorporated into property of the state. Well, I'm trying to, in the courts, unincorporate myself, prove that I'm no property of the state, revoke my birth certificate and ask for my sovereign rights back, and that I do not stand under the jurisdiction and authority of the Crown. I don't stand under the Queen.